If you look at the numbers behind incontinence in women, it's hard to believe just how big an issue it is. Incontinence affects more women than diabetes, breast cancer, and heart disease, but it doesn't get nearly the attention it deserves. That's why the National Association for Continence has created the We Count campaign to help you realize that this isn't just a you problem, it's an us problem. There are treatments available right now that can make a real difference in your life, and we invite you to take action today. Visit nafc.org/we-count for essential facts, insights, and resources on stress and urge incontinence, overactive bladder, menopause-related leakage, and more. That's nafc.org/we-count to learn more and discover that there truly is strength in numbers.
Welcome to Life Without Leaks, a podcast by the National Association for Continence. NAFC is America's leading advocate for people with bladder and bowel conditions, with resources, connections to doctors, and a welcoming community of patients, physicians, and caregivers, all available at nafc.org. This podcast is supported by our sponsor partner Medtronic, maker of InterStim systems for bladder and bowel control. To learn more about InterStim therapy, visit controlleaks.com. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Leaks. I'm your host, Bruce Cassover, and joining us again today is Steve Gregg, the Executive Director for the National Association for Continence. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. How you doing?
I'm great, Bruce. You know, it's really exciting to have a real patient come and be willing to share their story with us. So I'm really looking forward to this today.
Me too. I think that this is a story that's really going to resonate with an enormous number of people. Joining us today is Carolyn Hampton, who is going to be talking with us about her experience with overactive bladder and how she overcame it through a therapy called InterStim, which is from a company called Medtronic. In fact, it's been so successful for her that she's become an ambassador for Medtronic, talking with people about what InterStim is and how it may be a benefit to them. So thank you for joining us today, Carolyn.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am looking forward to the conversation today.
I understand that we're going to be talking a little bit about your treatment journey to find relief for your symptoms of overactive bladder. And before we actually get to the end, I'd like to start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about how you first recognized you had a problem and what the symptoms were sort of like at the very beginning?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I don't really think originally I thought it was a problem. And it's really hard for me to, people ask me that question, and it's hard sometimes for me to say when I really said, oh, I have an issue, because I seem to always have had bathroom issues. Even as a kid, I was the one who always had to go to the bathroom more than others. My mother always cautioned me, later in the evening, don't drink so much. That way you won't have to worry about going to the bathroom, especially at night, right? I attributed that to the fact that I had a tiny or a small bladder. In fact, as I got older, I kind of referred to that as TBS, tiny bladder syndrome, because on some level, my bladder issues were normal, or so I thought, at least.
That's actually something that we hear a lot of, is that people don't really have a sense of what is normal and what's abnormal. And there's also a lot of mythology. People believe that, well, you're talking about happening as at a younger age, but for example, a lot of people think that, as you get older, it just happens. It's just something that you can't avoid. So there is a lot of resistance to even recognizing that there's a problem. We know that, Steve, you can correct me. How many years do we know that it typically is before a person seeks help for their symptoms? It's years, isn't it?
Yeah, we've seen data that suggests from the onset of symptoms to the time, particularly a woman seeks treatment or speaks up to a physician, is on average about 7 years.
That's insane. That people will literally suffer with a condition that is for an enormous number of them treatable, really, really treatable for 7 years. So you didn't even realize that there was necessarily a problem. What motivated you eventually to go try and seek help?
Well, continuing on with that line of thought, though, and you talked about the 7 years, we think that it's normal. And it's also something that we don't talk about because it's taboo, because it's secret. And once you get to be past 3 years old and you're potty trained, nobody thinks that there's really an issue at all. But for me, I still found that even though I was going to the bathroom more than other people, I still felt it was normal because I still wasn't using any kind of bladder control pads, right? I was just going to the bathroom a little bit more often than people. I didn't have an urgency issue, just a frequency one that to me wasn't that bad. So I was managing it. Even when I got older, got pregnant, and people said, oh, women, oh, you're going to have to go to the bathroom all the time now. I never found it to be any different. So it was well in my 40s that now I'm recognizing that, this isn't right. This isn't normal, because now I'm seeing an urgency issue along with the frequency issue. That's when it kind of clicked in my head that, well, maybe it's not tiny bladder syndrome. Maybe there really is something else going on. And that's when I started talking to my doctor about it.
How easy was that? Was it, you talked about how it's taboo, and it really is. I mean, people are ashamed. They're afraid of bringing it up. Are you one of those people who doesn't have a problem talking about that with a physician, or did you find it difficult also?
I'm the kind of person that talks about everything. So it wasn't difficult for me. But I also say I also had a relationship with my doctor who made talking to her about anything very easily. So we had built this rapport with each other over the years that it made it simple for me to say, okay, Dr. Wilder Dyer, I'm sorry, but I got to talk about this problem. And she's like, okay, let's listen. And so it made it easy for me because of who she was. I don't know if it'd been a new doctor or maybe even one that I just didn't have that relationship with, that I would have brought it up because it's that secret issue problem.
I'm very happy to hear that you were able to talk with your doctor, but even recognizing that as somebody who's really able to be open about these things, knowing that there might be situations where you'd be a little more reluctant is interesting, because we know how many people really just refuse to mention it to family, to friends, to physicians. So I guess having that relationship is really important. That's excellent. So you went to the doctor, you discussed the problem. What did you first do to try and address it?
Once we talked about the fact that, I really am going to the bathroom a lot more. And I had started getting the bladder control pads. And in fact, by this time, I've got bladder control pads pretty much everywhere. They're in my office, they're in my purse. I've got extra underwear in the car. I'm ready for any type of accident that I might have. I'm prepared. I'm hoping I don't. But again, those are those things that are in the back of your mind that you're like, okay, I got to be ready for this. So after telling her what I was doing and what I was feeling, she said, okay, well, let's try a couple of things. We started with Detrol. Detrol was, a prescription medication. And I believe by this time, too, I had noticed, drugs are being advertised on television. So I think that kind of helped me to go, maybe this is something I should talk to my doctor about and not just suck it up. So in talking to her, she ended up putting me on Detrol. And that worked, sort of, kind of. Wasn't consistent. It would work. And it was almost, for me, I felt like my body got used to it and then it stopped working. It kind of got used to it, and then it'd be like, all right, yeah, you can take that pill if you want to, but you're still gonna have this problem. So I would take it. It would eliminate my issues for a little while, maybe a month or so. And then I'd go right back to where I was. So I'm going, well, if I'm gonna have the problem, then I'm not gonna take it, because drugs are drugs are drugs. And I don't need to have anything in my system if it's not gonna work for me. So I'd stop using it. And then I'd take it whenever I was going to go out of town. Like, okay, you need a little extra, and it would work. It would work a little bit. So that became my mode of operation. Only take it when you're going to really need it. Don't take it all the time.
I can understand that. That does make sense. I mean, when you were taking it regularly, did you have any issues keeping track of your medications? That's, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that even if a medication works perfectly for you, it only works when you take it. And my own example is, if I've ever, if I've been sick and the doctor prescribes me antibiotics and I have to take a course of antibiotics for 5 days or something. I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee that on day 3, I'm sitting there at about 11 o'clock saying, did I take my pill this morning? And I have no idea if I did or didn't, because taking medication as directed isn't always easy. And I'm wondering if that's something that you had an experience with, or if you were fortunate enough to be really good in staying regimented that way.
I was pretty regimented, but again, I was younger. I'm
Hmm.
probably in my 40s then.
Hmm.
So it was a little bit easier for me. But I would say now, it
Hmm.
would be, if I had to do that now, it would be very difficult for me because, of course, now as I'm older, I don't take a lot of medication. In fact, I don't take any prescription medication, but I take supplements. So I take the vitamin D
Hmm.
and fish oil, vitamin C. I've got a multivitamin. I'm taking calcium. And there are days I go, did you take that one? And I've got the little pill, little pill boxes with the days of the week on them. And sometimes you look at that and go, oh, I'm not sure I did. And it's like, I don't want to take it again, so I don't take it. I can understand where people, especially at my age now, would have a problem knowing for sure if they took it or if they didn't.
Oh, you said something that just reminded me, because I'm in the same boat. I have, all of my supplements and medications, and I set up a little pill box because otherwise I'm sitting there opening up, 55 different jars a night, to take the vitamin
Mm-hmm.
D and the folate and all that sort of stuff. But I'll tell you what, having to find a pill box that holds everything, if you want to talk about feeling old, every time you look at that pill box, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm George Burns all of a sudden. So you found that you're taking the medication when you needed to, and that was working for you. So did you decide at some point that you wanted to see if there was a different treatment, or were you satisfied that this is just going to be the way that you go moving forward?
For a while, I was. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, this is the hand you've been dealt. You've got a situation with your body, with your bladder. So this is how you're managing it. And I was managing it and it seemed okay.
Hmm.
But I noticed it got worse.
Hmm.
And by what I mean by that is I am now going to the bathroom almost every hour,
Wow.
45 minutes to an hour, especially at night, no matter
Hmm.
how much I drank or not drank.
At night you were getting up hourly?
Yes, to the
How
point
you must have
that
been a zombie.
here are two things. To the point that I would go to the bathroom, sit on the toilet and pee, and put my head in my hands and go back to sleep
Oh,
because I
wow.
knew I was going to have to go again. So I would just sit there. So I might do that a couple of times and then go back to bed.
Hmm.
And what that did, just like you said, I'm exhausted,
Hmm.
right? Because you're not getting that really good night's sleep.
Sure.
So that became a really big issue for me. And in fact, it's interesting you mentioned that because when it was time for me to get the InterStim device,
Hmm.
having to go through the insurance and get it approved,
Hmm.
they didn't approve it.
Hmm.
I wrote them this lovely little nasty letter to explain to them how the quality of my life was suffering because I could not sleep because I was getting up every hour to go to the bathroom.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
that became a really big issue overall. And that was the catalyst, I would say, to make me go back to my doctor and say something isn't right. And at this point, I really thought it wasn't so much the bladder.
Hmm.
I'm a cancer survivor.
Okay.
So I'm thinking there's a tumor growing on this bladder somewhere. I've
Oh
got
God.
something that's just growing and pressing against my bladder way to the point that now I can't and I can't control it at all. I've got the urgency and the frequency is off the chart so that like I said I'm going to the bathroom just about 20 times a day if you will. That was the catalyst for me to say I have to go do something. I need to take this a step further and do something.
Okay, well, now there were so many things that you just said that I wanted to touch on. First of all,
Okay.
very happy to hear that you're cancer free. I'm assuming, yes?
Yes,
It was
yes.
ovarian cancer. Is that what it was?
Ovarian cancer. And then 8 years after that, I got breast cancer, but caught early. And I'm still here to tell that tale as well.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's a whole other podcast, but that's
Yeah.
great. I mean, So yeah, I could definitely imagine why that would have come to mind is that yeah, this is not just a bladder issue, it's something even worse. Wow, well, I'm sure you must have been relieved to discover that that wasn't the case at least.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So now you went to the doctor though, because this absolutely is you cannot continue get literally going to the bathroom 24 times a day. So you went to the doctor and you mentioned InterStim, which is a type of therapy that's very different than medications. And so did the doctor introduce this to you? Was this something that you had no idea about beforehand?
I had no idea about it. In fact, at this stage, in going to the bathroom as much as I was, and knowing my history, and again, this goes back to the relationship that I had with my doctor. She knew my history. And at that point, she said, okay, this is past my level of expertise. It's time for you to see a specialist.
Mhm.
So I commend her for saying to me, we're not going to just keep trying more drugs, right?
Yeah.
Listen, we're not going to do that. I'm going to get you to someone that can really concentrate on this specific area and find out what's going on. So that's when I went to a urologist.
Okay, very good. And so the urologist is the one who introduced you to the idea of InterStim therapy. Is that right?
Yes, but not the first urologist. The first
Aha.
doctor that I saw wanted to continue treatment with drugs. And we tried a couple of different things. I was willing to do that. We tried a combination of drugs. We had one, I can't remember the name of the first one. And then we tried that in addition with something else. And at that point, he said, because I didn't get any better, he said, you know what? I need for you to meet with another doctor in the practice
Hmm.
and discuss this a little bit further because I think it's more of a serious problem than what we're seeing. And
Hmm.
that's when I was introduced to InterStim.
Well, this sounds really great. I mean, I like the fact that you have doctors who are really working sort of collegially with each other to try and help you get the right outcome. And, I guess, medication may not have worked for you, but it does sort of make sense. And I think it sounds very, plausible, good, reasonable that they would have tried, different medication regimens because, medications are great for many people. A lot of them, there's a reason they're out there is that a lot of people have good results. You just happen to not be one of them.
Yeah.
So the doctor introduced you to InterStim, which is, as I said, it's a therapy. It's by a company called Medtronic, which is just about the world's largest or one of the world's largest manufacturers of all sorts of medical devices. So, it's coming from people who really know what they're doing. But what is InterStim? As a patient, what did they explain to you InterStim was and how it works?
What they explained to me was that I had a disconnect between my brain and my bladder. The nerve that connects those two was misfiring. So
Mhm.
my bladder was getting mixed signals of when it was time for me to go to the bathroom. And it wasn't giving me the signal in enough time that I could leisurely take a nice stroll to the bathroom.
Mhm.
So what I had to do was when I got that signal that your
Mhm.
brain says you need to go to the bathroom, it was drop everything you're doing and go
Mhm.
right that second. So if I'm frying chicken, up the chicken's gonna burn. If I'm watching television, I can't wait for the commercial to come on to go to the bathroom. I want to
Mhm.
see that play or that football play. I can't see that. I gotta wait. I gotta go right now. I can't having the conversation with you right now. If I'm on the phone with you, I can't say, well, keep having that conversation with you and say, well, I'll be through with Bruce in a few minutes. I've got to say, Bruce, I got to call you back and hang up the
Mhm.
phone. Or Bruce,
Mhm.
hold on, I'll be right back and drop it, run to the bathroom. And my grandmother used to do this, and I thought it was so funny. And then I started doing it myself.
Mhm.
Start stripping on the way to the bathroom because when I got to the bathroom, I needed to be able to sit on the toilet right then and
Mhm.
go. I
Mhm.
didn't have time to undress once I got in the bathroom. I had to do
Mhm.
it on the way. That was a big thing for me. Big thing.
What amazes me is that you talk about how it's brain bladder communication. I think that if you ask most people, the way that they would describe having to go to the bathroom is that it's something that feels like it's pretty much under your control. Sure, your bladder gets full and you there's the sensation and you go, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
But this sort of reminds you of the fact that your body will do what it wants to do, whether or not you consciously want it to do it.
That's
And
right.
there's some sort of a misfiring or a miscommunication, and you just don't have control. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And what this device does, it calms that nerve and gives you that signal
Hmm.
when your bladder is almost full and says, okay, you need to think about going to the bathroom pretty soon. So I
Hmm.
can go, okay, I'm going to watch this television show, wait till the commercial comes on. Or, Bruce, I'm going to
Hmm.
continue my conversation with you because I know we're not going to talk for an hour. We're going to talk for a
Hmm.
few more minutes. You got
Hmm.
something to say. I got something to say. And I'll finish that and I'll leisurely stroll to the bathroom, or I'll finish cooking my meal and turn off everything. And then I'm going to go to the bathroom. And that's what's going to happen.
Which
I
is good
could not
because
do that.
if you had to strip down while you're cooking, you don't want to get splattered or anything because that's going to be very painful.
Exactly.
Yes, and now you mentioned that it calms a nerve, and for those people who are just being introduced to this, I did want to mention that there's this particular nerve. It's called the sacral nerve, and you don't really need to know anatomy or anything, but the reason why I mentioned it is because this class of treatments is called sacral neuromodulation, which just means that it's addressing the sacral nerve. And InterStim is probably the most well known. It's the oldest, most widely used form of sacral neuromodulation. There are others out there, so people may have heard or received treatment that's been made by different manufacturers, but these sorts of approaches all try and address the same sort of thing. There are other nerves as well that can sometimes be addressed. There's the tibial nerve that there's some therapy that also is used to sort of reach similar sorts of results. But yeah, it's really fascinating how by addressing a nerve that it really can change your entire life. So tell me, what is the device, the InterStim device itself? I mean, it's an implant, right?
It's an implant about the size, I don't know, maybe a quarter, 50-cent
Hmm.
piece, somewhere in between there. And
Hmm.
my disclaimer is I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. So my description is based on the conversations I've had with the doctor and what I experienced. So,
Hmm.
and the way they describe it to me so that it makes sense to me when I talk
Sure.
about the nerve and the calming of the nerve and the stimulation of the nerve and the communication that the nerve wasn't getting, my brain is not getting through that nerve, why I feel like I have to go to the bathroom all the time. And I do.
Hmm. Hmm.
I know there are some people that have the feeling and they don't have any urine. I have to go. There is
Hmm.
urine there. So it's different for me, or everyone is different, I should say. Everyone's bathroom issue is maybe a little different. But if it's relating to that nerve, this device seems to help with that.
I'm gonna add the same sort of caveat that you just did because I am not a doctor and I don't play one on TV, nor do I play one on a podcast. So yeah, everything that we're saying is something that patients definitely want to be talking with their doctors about to get a real, a trained
Absolutely.
physician's perspective. But that being said, so it's a tiny little implant essentially, and they put it in sort of like the right above your butt, right?
Yeah, mine is on my upper right buttocks. So you're not
Hmm.
sitting on it.
Hmm.
You do lean back against it if you lean back in a chair or in your car or if you're in an airplane seat, but it's not poking you, it's not prodding you.
Well, that's
That
cool because you're like the bionic woman at that point.
absolutely, yes, I like that idea.
Yes.
But now it is attached to a lead wire
Hmm.
that is stimulating the nerve. And so I do feel in what patients that have this field is a pulsation, vibration, if you will. And for me, it's on my left vaginal wall,
Hmm.
but it's not something that first of all doesn't poke or prod you, the device itself, and the stimulation is not hard. It's
Hmm.
very, very, very light. So you
Hmm.
don't even notice it. It's in the very background of your life.
So it's not painful at all.
Oh, no, not at all. You have the option to dial it up. Everybody's different. So your level of the vibration is going to be different than mine. So mine is maybe 1.2, yours might be on 2.4. Everybody's different. But what my doctor said to me was, you don't want it to be painful. So when I'm playing around with it, when I first get it, and to make sure I get my setting correctly, I turn it to where I feel it, and then I turn it down one. And if I'm still feeling it, I turn it down one more. And if I'm still feeling it, I go one more. Then if I don't feel it, I turn it back one. And that's where I have it. Very, very light.
Oh, very good. Now when you got it, tell me if I'm mistaken. Before they even do the implant, don't they actually sort of do an in-office test so that you can make sure that it's delivering you the sort of relief that you're looking for?
Yes, they do a trial evaluation, and that's very important. And as an ambassador, when I'm talking to patients, prospective patients, I tell them that it's important to do, and it's a very restrictive evaluation. So bear with it, but it's so important because it will, number one, tell you whether the device is going to work for you. Because if it's not going to work for you, then there's no reason to do the surgery, right? So don't want to do that. But what it will give you an idea of what you're going to be feeling with it, so you'll know what that is. And it's restrictive because nothing is totally inside you at this point. So every time you walk, you move, you're active, you're going to move that wire a little farther away from the nerve. So if it's too far away from the nerve is not going to be stimulated. So they want you to not be active for 7 to 10 days. So in fact, I remember when I got mine, he said he didn't want me to vacuum. And I was like, vacuum? No, because vacuum meant you're going to be walking. So didn't want you to do any extra walking. So if you're someone that, runs every day and plays tennis every day and goes and works out every day and walks the dog every day, you're going to have to curtail that for a short period of time. But once you get the device and everything is all healed up, you are free to do anything and everything you want to do.
That's fantastic. Now, you did raise a good point that it really isn't for everybody. Like any other medical procedure, device, not everybody is automatically a candidate. Not everybody's going to get benefit from it. I do know that it's been incredibly successful. There's like hundreds of thousands of people who've gotten it and who've gotten relief from it. So, it sounds like there's a pretty good chance that this is something that really could be a benefit to you. But you do want to stress that, it does make sense to go through that trial first to make sure that you're one of those hundreds of thousands of people. So you've gotten the implant. How quickly did you start to see it generate results for you?
Almost immediately.
Really?
Yes. It's like night and day once that nerve is getting that stimulation. The doctor as well as the rep from Medtronic are in my recovery room, and they turn it on and we find the setting, and I go home. I'm recovering from the surgery, which, by the way, in my opinion, is a fairly easy surgery. It's outpatient.
It's outpatient. Okay.
Yeah, outpatient. And you're groggy from the anesthesia and you're sore because somebody cut you open, but you don't have to have someone can wait on you when like some other surgeries that I have had. So it was really fairly immediately. Once I got home, it's like, oh, I don't have to go to the bathroom. I haven't been to the bathroom in 4 hours, and I've had stuff to drink and I haven't been to the bathroom. And then you go to the bathroom and it's like, oh, I can walk to the bathroom. I don't have to run to the bathroom. Totally night and day.
What was it like waking up the first night that you didn't have to get up for 6
Oh, my goodness. That was scary because I didn't wake up and I wasn't wet when I woke up. So that was like, whoa.
Must have been very, very nice. Yes, that's great.
Yes, that was amazing.
Excellent. Now, how long have you had the device implanted?
It'll be 10 years next month.
Wow, 10 years, and it still continues to deliver relief, huh?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, in those 10 years, I have had to have the battery replaced, which I had the older model 10 years ago. So I had the battery replaced once. And the second time that the battery started to die, I now have the new upgraded version. And I won't have to have the battery replaced for hopefully 15 years. So we're good to go.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, can you tell when it was time for the battery to go? Is it like delivering? Was it not working quite as well? Or
oh, yeah, your symptoms return.
Oh,
Except
really?
symptoms
Really?
return. Yeah. It's like, wait a second, this isn't right. You know,
Hmm.
you dial it up because you think, okay, let me give some more power to that stimulator to hit that nerve.
Hmm.
And that works for a little while, and then you got to do it again. It's like, no, time to do it. Go get the
Wow.
battery done.
Yeah. So, and it's not just a double A or anything.
No, unfortunately, it does require to go back in and take it out and put the new battery in and sew you back up, another
So
surgery.
you
But
have one procedure that you say is an outpatient procedure that's not terribly, difficult as far as these sorts of things go. And you have 15 years of relief. And you know that it's relief because you see when the batteries start to fail, it comes right back.
hmm and I
That's
tell people
amazing.
this. I said I have a choice.
Hmm.
Would you do it again? Okay, I have a choice here. I can have a surgery, even the second surgery with the battery being replaced.
Hmm.
I can have that surgery, which surgery is surgery, has risks involved. I will not tell anybody there isn't a risk involved. And even though I say for me, it was an easy surgery. So I
Hmm.
can either do that or I can go back to going to the bathroom every hour for the rest of my life.
No,
Take your pick.
it's not a difficult decision, is
There you go. There's one more thing I would like to add as an example for your listeners of my life before and my life now. And I talked about the nighttime bathroom, but for example, if I were going to go out to a movie and dinner with friends, this is what would happen. I would go to the bathroom before I left my house. I'd go to the bathroom once I got into the movie theater because I hopefully didn't want to go in the middle of the movie. Now, after the movie, before I leave the theater, I'm going to go again. Going to get to the restaurant, sit down, place our order. I'm going to go to the bathroom once the order is placed. Food comes, we eat, we chat. Before we leave, I'm going to go to the bathroom again. If we happen to stay there for a long time, then I might have to go to the bathroom prior to leaving or prior during the middle of dinner and then again before we leave. And then when I get home, I'm going to go to the bathroom again. So I've gone to the bathroom in that 4 or 5 hour stint 5 or 6 times. That's what I used to do. Now I go to the bathroom before I leave my house. And I might go to the bathroom while we're in the restaurant, maybe before I leave the restaurant, depending upon what I've had to drink in the movie and in the restaurant. And then when I get home, I'm probably home a couple hours before I go to the bathroom. So that's the big difference in my life then and now.
Carolyn, it is interesting to hear you say that. And particularly given the time of year in which we're recording this. So I don't know exactly when it's going to come out, but we get so many comments coming to us around the holidays
Mm-hmm.
because the holidays involve family, travel,
Right.
and multiple stops with friends, to embrace all of the holiday seasons, which
Mm-hmm.
includes particularly food and a lot of beverages. And we hear from a lot of women that, we're coming up on some of the busiest travel times of the year. And many of them are petrified about flying, not because of the planes, but because where I sit, if I sit in the middle seat and I have to get up and then I have to get to the bathroom and then I have to get back,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have that many bathrooms and somebody always goes in there for too long. And by the way, they're traveling with family, which could be small kids or older, their parents. And so we really hear this frustration of, how do I manage this awful condition during these times of festivity? So I think your example is a really great one that there is a solution. There are solutions for you, and you need to go find somebody who can help you with this.
But we're very creative too, because I would take anybody's kid to the bathroom. They needed to go to the bathroom because that would be an excuse for me to go to the bathroom again. And then it wasn't known that I needed to go to the bathroom. I was just taking the kid to the bathrooms, right? So I could have just gone and maybe half hour later, some other person says, oh, dog, I got to take my kid to the bathroom. Now, oh, no problem. I'll do that.
it?
That is a creative solution for sure.
So I'm guessing that you would recommend people really consider this as an option if they find themselves in a similar situation.
I do. I highly recommend it. I do think everybody has to take into consideration all of what's going on with them, because some people have other issues that they have to contend with, and they may not tolerate anesthesia well for surgery. So there's all kinds of other things that they may have to take into consideration. And those are things that they must address with their doctors to make sure that this is the right thing for them. But if all is good, then yes, go for it.
Well, outstanding. That's really encouraging. I love hearing that it's delivered such an incredible amount of relief to you. And I'm hoping that others really take your words to heart and go out and find out if this is right for them too, because there's no reason why somebody who can be helped shouldn't be helped. So I really want to thank you for sharing your perspective and your experiences and opening up, because with any luck, it's going to make a real difference for a lot of people's lives.
I certainly hope it does. And it's one of the reasons why I am an ambassador for the company, is because I truly feel that this is such a taboo topic, this secret society. We don't talk about the bathroom issues. Like I mentioned earlier, once you potty trained, we throw that away and nobody wants to bring that up again. But if you think about it, there's an entire aisle in the grocery store and in the drugstore for incontinence. So this really is an issue that's very prevalent amongst folks, but we just don't bring it out into the light. It's the shame and the embarrassment. But having this has given me such a freedom that I want to share that and let folks know that there is hope. There is definitely hope out there. And if this doesn't work for you, then find something else that will.
Carolyn, it sounds like you found a really great set of doctors, both that talk to each other and talk to you. What advice do you have for women who oftentimes struggle trying to get to a primary care doctor who doesn't know anything about treatments? Frankly, they don't know anything about incontinence, to be perfectly honest. And then it seemed like even after you went through the process and the procedure, you had an ongoing relationship with those great specialists. What advice do you have for our listeners about talking and finding the right kind of doctor?
My doctor never heard of this. My primary care physician, she had never heard of this. So, and I found that to be very interesting. I'm like, well, don't you doctors talk to each other about stuff like this? But it was news to her. And even though this product was not new, she did not know. So I think, first of all, and I tell this to women, regardless of what that issue is, you have got to be your own best patient advocate. You've got to advocate for yourself. I go into the doctor with a list of questions on a piece of paper, because if I don't, I'm going to forget something. And when I go with my mom or my uncle or my aunt, I kind of interview them before I go with them. And I'm there at the age now that it's like, no, somebody has to go to the doctor with you, because they need to hear everything and you're not going to remember, and you need to hear everything and you're not going to remember what they said. So first and foremost, be your own best advocate, or have an advocate with you. That's number one. And number two, don't let the doctor blow you off. If you're not satisfied with the treatment that you're getting, the answer that you're getting, find another doctor. I really recommend that.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. Writing down questions beforehand, we advocate that all the time. And we keep hearing from a variety of doctors, which are, if you can't help me with my problem, I'll find a doctor who can. So I think that's really great advice.
Now, you mentioned earlier about how you had to write a letter to your insurance company. I'm wondering, first of all, if you could tell us a little bit about whether or not your letter in particular was effective for you.
This was 10 years ago, of course, but the scenario was this. They approved the trial evaluation. You got to get the insurance company to approve it. So they did. It's a surgery. They approved it. But once the recommendation came back that, oh, this is going to work, let's go forth with the surgery, they denied it, saying that it wasn't necessary. I don't remember the exact term, but basically what they said was it wasn't necessary. So I didn't understand how, if you didn't think it was necessary, number one, why did you approve the trial evaluation? That was a waste of time and money. You should have said, no, you don't need that either. And it wasn't a new product. It was something that had been on the market for years. So this wasn't some new product that they still were trying to see if it was going to work. There had already been studies. It was already working. So I didn't understand that either. So yes, I wrote the letter and my doctors wrote a letter and it was effective. But I did have a 3-month gap in between my trial and the actual implant, which typically you would not have seen. Typically, I would have had that implant within another couple of weeks or maybe a month based on, surgery schedules and all that. But I ended up being 3 months, which is why I didn't get it till almost the end of the year in December when I started it in the fall.
Well, if that would have made me more frustrated or more infuriated, because as you were telling your story, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, why would they approve a trial if there's no possibility of them approving the actual therapy? That's
right. Doesn't make
any sense. No, it doesn't. Wow.
Doesn't make any sense.
I'm glad you had. I'm glad that you did have that, and I think that also speaks to your point earlier with Steve about how you need to advocate for yourself. That you have to take matters into your own hands sometimes. So I'm glad to hear that.
Don't suffer in silence for this secret, embarrassing issue that we are dealing with as an adult, no matter what your age is. I've talked to patients that are in their 20s and have the issue. I talk to a lot more older patients, and we do think, well, we're older now and it's just the way it is. Some of that is true, but a lot of it, there's a lot of relief to be had where you can get the control back in your life and have the freedom of being able to enjoy family, friends, outings that you were able to do before.
That's really encouraging, and I'm really, really glad to hear you say that, because a lot of what we talk about at the National Association for Continence is the fact that if you find the right therapy, it really can give you back your life. Lately what we've been saying is that you don't think of incontinence as a deadly disease the way that some other things are, but what we do say is that we may not save lives, but we do save life. And that's really what this is all about. So I love hearing you say that, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for joining us today.
You're most welcome. I'm glad I had the opportunity to share my story, and I certainly hope it helps even just one person. Then that's good.
Life Without Leaks has been brought to you by the National Association for Continence. This podcast was supported by our sponsor partner Medtronic, makers of the InterStim systems for bladder and bowel control. To learn more about the InterStim systems, visit controlleaks.com. Our music is Rainbows by Kevin MacLeod and can be found online at incompetech.com.